Okay, so when most people think Marilyn Monroe, the image is instant, right? Platinum blonde, the glamour, maybe the tragedy, but it's so often simplified.
Absolutely. Just headlines, bombshell, sex pot, maybe victim, but there's just so much more complexity there.
Exactly. And if you peel back those layers, what you find is this incredibly deep personal history. Her whole story, really, it's this profound case study in how early trauma shapes a life, shapes a destiny.
Mm-hmm. And the immense psychological cost of becoming and living as such a massive icon.
So that's our mission today, isn't it? To go beyond that surface glamour, try and reveal the Norma Jean behind the Marilyn.
Yeah, exactly. We want to explore how those really foundational experiences, her childhood, shaped her transformation into this enduring figure, and look at the hidden struggles, the things people didn't see.
And we've got some fascinating sources to help us do that. We're looking at comprehensive biographies that really map out her life chronologically.
In-depth psychological analyses, too, trying to probe that inner world.
Right. And maybe the most compelling stuff, excerpts from her own diary fragments, which is offer these raw, unfiltered glimpses.
They're incredible. So, yeah, the mission is clear. Let's unpack this journey. Norma Jean Mortensen to Marilyn Monroe. How did it happen?
Yeah.
And what did it really, really cost her?
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Not with the star, but with the child, Norma Jean Mortensen.
Right. Depression-era Los Angeles. And her early life was, well, anything but stable.
No kidding. Constantly bouncing between foster homes, temporary guardians. You picture this kid with just a bag of secondhand clothes, always moving. It's a childhood just steeped in neglect.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely central to that instability was her mother, Gladys, her severe mental illness.
Yeah.
Gladys was eventually institutionalized, and that led to Norma Jean becoming a ward of the state. Just an incredibly fragile foundation for a child.
Which meant she hardly ever experienced consistent, familial love. That basic security just wasn't there.
And the trauma didn't stop with neglect. Monroe herself later talked about experiences of sexual abuse during her childhood.
Right. I remember reading that.
Yeah. And that, combined with the instability, it just cemented this pervasive narrative inside her, this feeling of abandonment, all this buried trauma.
And layered on top of that was this constant fear, wasn't there? This fear of inheriting her mother's mental illness, like a shadow hanging over her.
Absolutely. A huge fear. Plus, complex family secrets swirled around her, too, especially about who her biological parents really were, Gladys Baker and Charles Stanley Gifford.
So very little consistent love, though Grace Goddard, her mother's friend, did provide some support for a time.
She did, yes. Grace was a significant figure temporarily. But even that support kind of faded as Norma Jean started becoming Marilyn as she began her ascent.
It's genuinely striking. How does someone with that kind of fractured background not only survive Hollywood, but actually, make it? What fueled that ambition?
Well, that's the pivot, isn't it? For someone who knew nothing but instability, Hollywood. It wasn't just about fame. It became this almost desperate chance for reinvention.
Ah, okay. So Marilyn Monroe wasn't just a catchy name?
Not at all. It was a studio creation, yes, a marketing strategy, sure. But more deeply, it was this dazzling mask, designed partly to fool the world, but maybe mostly to protect Norma Jean.
So this wasn't like typical stage-struck ambition. This sounds different.
It was raw,
yeah,
guttural almost, the drive of a survivor with absolutely no safety net. Picture it. A child with nothing, no real family, no stability, realizing the only way to have any power in a world designed to chew you up
is to become impossible to ignore.
Exactly. That wasn't just ambition. It was a survival mechanism dressed up as glamour.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
So that transformation, it was self-preservation, rewriting her own story.
Profoundly so. I mean, that's what's so fascinating. It wasn't just about getting famous. It was about trying to take control of a narrative she felt powerless in.
Yeah.
And behind that peroxide and the famous pout,
Was someone totally different.
completely, a woman devouring Freud and Dostoevsky, battling chronic insomnia with barbiturates. We'll come back to that. And someone who deep down seems to have never quite believed she deserved the applause.
Yeah, those diary fragments really show that, don't they? Like that line, "I am not a toy. I am not a joke. I am trying to be brave." Just heartbreaking.
It really is. It gets right through the image.
And yet she did fight for control sometimes, didn't she? Within that system. Co-founding her own production company. That was huge for a woman, though.
Revolutionary almost. Marilyn Monroe Productions. And she consistently pushed back against the studios, fighting for more demanding roles, trying to get beyond just the
giggle and wiggle parts,
Yeah.
typically.
Those were real significant wins for her, even if they're often overlooked. Small battles won, even as the bigger struggles continued.
But it's like the more she succeeded as Marilyn, the more Hollywood seemed to consume Norma Jean. That fame, it became this trap.
A gilded cage is a perfect description.
Oh, yeah.
The more the world adored Marilyn, the more it seems Norma Jean felt lost, disconnected, leading to this profound identity crisis.
Caught between her real self and this massive public persona she'd created, partly out of necessity.
And the industry pressures were just immense. Studios were routinely pushing pills on actors back then, amphetamines to work, barbiturates to sleep.
Right, that was disturbingly common.
Yeah. Directors questioning her sanity, sometimes openly. Gossip columnists like Hedda Hopper practically feeding off her instability, writing about it with this voyeuristic glee.
So the public saw maybe lateness, forgotten lines, and judged.
They judged based on those surface things, yes. But the reality behind it was so much darker.
Just constant struggle, drowning in anxiety, that unresolved trauma we talked about, and this haze of prescription drugs.
And the insomnia.
Yeah.
It wasn't just occasional trouble sleeping. It was chronic, debilitating, a constant companion.
And that's not a simple thing, is it? Insomnia like that.
No, it's a complex web, physiological factors, psychological stress. It's something historians note has plagued deeply troubled minds for centuries. It was a huge burden for her.
Which must have fueled this profound sense of loneliness people talk about with her.
Absolutely. She relentlessly sought solace, didn't she? In therapy, which was quite progressive for the time, in writing poetry and in relationships, often with powerful men. But ultimately, they couldn't save her from those internal battles.
And how was all this discussed back then? People must have talked about her struggles.
They did, often using sort of popular psychological ideas of the day. Freud's theories were very much in the air. But there was also skepticism.
Skepticism about the psychological explanation.
Yeah. Some argued her problems were more external, the intense studio pressures, the craziness of celebrity culture, rather than purely internal issues. A mix, probably.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for us now, how we view celebrity mental health, especially looking back at someone like Marilyn?
Well, it leads us to that bigger question, doesn't it? How can we better understand this really complex interplay between trauma, identity, and the sheer relentless pressure of public life?
And today, people look back with maybe more understanding.
Definitely. Today, looking back at her writings, her documented behavior, there are speculative modern diagnoses people suggest. Now, these are retrospective, obviously. We can't know for sure.
Right. You can't diagnose someone posthumously, but based on the patterns.
Exactly. Some suggest complex PTSD stemming from that repeated childhood trauma. Others, looking at her unique social interactions, her intense focus sometimes, they speculate about maybe undiagnosed autism spectrum disorder. ASD traits exist on a continuum, of course.
Interesting. What else?
There's talk of borderline personality disorder, characterized by intense emotional shifts, unstable relationships, or possibly bipolar disorder with its dramatic mood swings. Again, all speculative interpretations based on the evidence we have.
So it really pushes us to see her, and maybe other figures too, with a much more compassionate lens.
Yes. Contemporary scholars, mental health professionals, they are revisiting her life now, moving way beyond that simplistic cautionary tale narrative she was often boxed into.
Yeah, she wasn't just a warning, it reframes it, doesn't it? More like that phrase you used, brilliance forced to bloom through concrete.
Exactly. It emphasizes the resilience alongside the struggle. Her ultimate tragedy, perhaps, wasn't that fame itself destroyed her. It might have been the collective refusal then and sometimes now to truly see her as human.
As a whole person, with all the complexities, the struggles, the inner world that comes with it. So Marilyn Monroe's story, fundamentally, it's one of incredible survival, isn't it?
It really is.
It's about what happens when that profound early trauma meets this almost desperate ambition, and how Norma Jean, who genuinely had nothing left to lose,
transformed herself into this icon who somehow endures.
Yeah. And hopefully this deep dive encourages you, listening, to reflect on that stark contrast, the dazzling public image versus the intense private struggles.
And just how much we still might misunderstand about the people we put on pedestals.
Definitely food for thought.
And maybe, just maybe, the story we really need to remember isn't the glossy one Hollywood sold us. It's the one Marilyn herself tried, so desperately it seems, to tell.